Hello everyone. Today's topic of presentation is multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is one of the common cancers involving elderly people. Most of the people with the myeloma came with symptoms of bone pain, anemia, that is low hemoglobin, kidney failure or renal failure, high calcium levels, and bone fracture. The basic problem with the myeloma is plasma cell. Plasma cell is a component of bone marrow cell, and cancer involving the plasma cell is called multiple myeloma. Now we have already learned about the symptoms of the presenting complaints of myeloma. Then we will see how we diagnose myeloma. So when the patients come with these symptoms, what we do is that we do a basic blood investigation, including hemogram, ESR, renal function test, liver function test. Along with that, what we do is that we do a serum protein electrophoresis. And for most of the people with myeloma, on serum electrophoresis, there will be an N component. And this in the initial stage blood investigation, if the picture is suggestive of myeloma, then we will do further evaluation to confirm the diagnosis of myeloma. This includes a bone marrow investigation, a skeletal survey. What we used to do earlier was X-rays of the whole body, X-ray skull, X-ray spine, and X-rays of the long bone and pelvis. Now that is getting replaced by a PET CT. A PET CT shows is having more sensitivity. That means it pick up more lesions than in conventional X-rays. When we do bone marrow, we often send for routine histopathology examination, immunohistochemistry, and also nowadays we are also sending for a special test called flow cytometry and FISH test. Along with that, we'll do a lot of corroboratory tests also to confirm the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. And usually, patients with the multiple myeloma, they'll have many plasma cells in their bone marrow. Say more than 10% of marrow cells will be a malignant plasma cells. Along with that, the patient should have an end organ damage. The end organ damage is defined as either an anemia or bone pain or bone fracture, hypercalcemia, that is high blood calcium level, or renal failure, that is kidney failure, a high creatinine level, or recurrent infections should be there. These are the common features. If you go to the textbook or if you go by guideline, there will be multiple other factors are also taken into account. But since this talk is for general public and general audience, I'm not going into intricate details of those tests. And if any of these features are present along with a high bone marrow plasma, say more than 10%, then you can easily diagnose someone as having multiple myeloma. Apart from this, if somebody's bone marrow is showing more than 60% of plasma cells, then also without any end organ damage, you can diagnose or you can call that person as having multiple myeloma. Or if you do a special investigation called the serum free light chain assay. In the serum free light chain assay, what we are measuring is two protein subunits called the kappa and lambda. If the kappa and the absolute difference between kappa and lambda is 100 times, that is kappa is 1 and lambda is 100, or vice versa. Lambda is 1 and kappa is 100. Then also, even without having any end organ damage, you can diagnose multiple myeloma. This is how we generally diagnose myeloma. And once you diagnose myeloma, then you have to stage the patient, you have to prognosticate the patient, and then you have to treat the patient. Very simple. So the earlier there were many laboratory parameters were there to prognosticate myeloma. Now we are using more and more advanced techniques to prognosticate myeloma and to stage myeloma. Staging myeloma, usually if you see any cancer, there will be stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. But in case of myeloma, there is only 3 stages: stage 1, 2, and 3. Okay, there is no stage 4 in myeloma. And the staging and prognostication are dependent upon few of the lab parameters. The most important lab parameters are: one is beta 2 microglobulin. whether that is normal or abnormal. Second one is albumin, whether it is normal or abnormal. Third one is LDH. LDH is whether that is normal or abnormal. And the fourth one is cytogenetic study. So depending upon all these four parameters, you can diagnose somebody's myeloma having a stage 1 myeloma, stage 2 myeloma, or a stage 3 multiple myeloma. If the patient's LDH is normal, beta 2 microglobulin is normal, albumin is normal, and they are having good genetic markers, good cytogenetic markers, so on FISH or on any sophisticated NGS platform, then that person will have a stage 1 myeloma. If somebody is having a high LDH, high beta 2 microglobulin, a very low albumin, a very bad cytogenetic features, then that person will be diagnosed with the stage 3 multiple myeloma. Anyone in between will be stage 2 multiple myeloma. So this is how we stage multiple myeloma. And then regarding treatment, multiple myeloma, for the treatment purpose, myelomas are divided into two broad categories. When they are treatment naive or when they are first diagnosed. That is, whether the patient is eligible for a bone marrow transplantation or whether the patient is not eligible for a bone marrow transplantation. So we categorize them into two broad subtypes, whether they are transplant eligible subset or transplant ineligible subset. Anyone with a good performance status, healthy up to the age of 65, they will be transplant eligible people, and anyone which is not having good general health, or anyone who is more than 65 years, they'll be categorized as transplant ineligible or not able to tolerate transplant ineligible group. The treatment will be different for two of the subtypes of myeloma or subgroups of myeloma. In the transplant eligible group, what we generally do is that you give chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is called the induction chemotherapy. Induction means what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to achieve a remission. We are trying to achieve a normal bone marrow, a normal electrophores, and probably a normal serum free light chain assay, at least a 90% reduction in bone marrow plasma cells, M component, and serum free light chains. If you can achieve that, then you can go for transplant. For induction, what we generally use is a 3-drug regimen. There are multiple chemotherapeutic agents are available to treat myeloma. The major classes of drugs which you can use to treat myeloma are, one is proteasome inhibitor. This is the major backbone of myeloma treatment. You have the multiple drugs in this category. Most commonly used drugs are, one is bortezomib, that is what we generally use nowadays. And apart from bortezomib, you have another drug called carfilzomib, is also available now in India. Apart from bortezomib and carfilzomib, many other zomibs like ixazomib are available elsewhere, and we are anticipating the launch of those molecules in India anytime soon. So one class of drug is proteasome inhibitor. One proteasome inhibitor should be there when you are planning for transplant. So one among the proteasome inhibitor can be either bortezomib or it can be a carfilzomib based chemotherapy. So what we generally use is bortezomib. So bortezomib should be there. Second is IMiDs or immunomodulatory agents or immunomodulatory drugs. In that category, you have many drugs called that. You have thalidomide, you have lenalidomide, you have pomalidomide, and many other drugs in that group. What we generally use is either lenalidomide or thalidomide. You can use bortezomib along with the lenalidomide. And for all multiple myeloma treatment, whether you are using IMiDs, whether you are using proteasome inhibitors, or whether you are using any other drug, and a drug which you cannot avoid is steroid. The one most commonly used steroid is dexamethasone. Some of the time we use prednisolone in some regimens, but in transplant eligible patients, we use dexamethasone as the backbone steroid in the chemotherapy backbone. So use 3-drug combination. It can be bortezomib, lenalidomide, or dexamethasone with the dexamethasone called the RVD. R represents lenalidomide, V represents bortezomib, and D represents dexamethasone. We use RVD chemotherapy. This is the most commonly used chemotherapy regimen. Sometimes we also use Cyborg chemotherapy regimen. In that, the bortezomib and along with bortezomib and dexamethasone, we use another chemotherapy drug called the cyclophosphamide. It's an alkylating agent, alkylating chemotherapy drug called the cyclophosphamide. So use any of these three drug regimen. It can also be carfilzomib, pomalidomide, dexamethasone. It can be pomalidomide, dexamethasone alone, or it can be, and ideally it should be a three drug regimen. And nowadays another drug called daratumumab is coming up in a big way. Daratumumab is a CD38 antibody. And this multiple myeloma cells on the surface, they express a protein called the CD38. And this daratumumab will go and bind to the CD38. It's an antibody. It will go and bind to the multiple myeloma cells and it will kill the myeloma cells. If you use this 4-drug regimen, that is chemotherapy plus an antibody, that is daratumumab, then your response rate, your response to treatment and your effect of treatment very great. Patients will go to remission. Remission means a normal bone marrow state. Very soon and very fast, and most of the people are going to go for remission if you are using a 4-drug with the daratumumab. So use all this, any of this regimen, you do re-evaluation in between. Ideally, you have to re-evaluate with the serum protein electrophoresis and serum free light chain assay once in every month. That's once in every cycle. And if you achieve a good response is defined as either a complete remission, which is defined as no evidence of detectable disease on microscopy on bone marrow, or with a normal protein electrophoresis and normal serum free light chain assay, or a VGPR called a very good partial response. That means at least 90% reduction in the M component and SFRC, serum free light chain component. If you can achieve that, then in the transplant eligible subset, you can plan for transplant. And now we'll see what are the major toxicities of what we should look for while somebody is on induction chemotherapy. Usually, induction chemotherapies are very well tolerated in myeloma. Patient may not develop any toxicity. At the most, what they develop will be a hyperglycemia or high blood sugar. Other than that, there won't be any issue. Patient feel better, their pain will be reduced, their fatigue will be reduced, and patient will feel more energetic and more enthusiastic after the initiation of chemotherapy. It's not unlike most of the people think. With the chemotherapy, what people believe, people's misconception is that the patient will be fatigued, they'll be weak, they'll be getting infection, etc., etc. But that is wrong. With the induction chemotherapy of myeloma, most of the patients generally improve. Their myeloma symptoms disappear, and most of the patients will have a general improvement in their health. There is general improvement in their symptoms, and most of them will be ambulant. They'll be able to do their routine work, and most of the people will be able to go to their office and do office work also. So the induction is usually for a period of around 4 months, and if you attain your objective, that is your complete remission or very good partial response, then you can plan for bone marrow transplantation. The bone marrow transplant is nothing but it's just a high dose chemotherapy, and when you give high dose chemotherapy, the most commonly affected organ will be your bone marrow. If you wanted to give a very high dose of chemotherapy without bone marrow toxicity, without much bone marrow toxicity means what we mean is that if you give very high chemotherapy, then the bone marrow may go for aplasia, the bone marrow may shut down, and when the bone marrow shut down, there won't be any blood production, there won't be any platelet production, there won't be any WBC to fight any infection. All this problem can happen. And when this happens, the patient will be more prone for infection because of low platelet. The patient can bleed because of low hemoglobin. patient may develop multitude of problems, including congestive cardiac failure and hypoxia, pneumonia, etc. etc. So to avoid that, what we can do is that if you can store some bone marrow, get some bone marrow stem cells before chemotherapy, you can store that bone marrow stem cells, take it out from the patient, store in the blood bank, then you give chemotherapy, and then you give this stem cells back to the patient when the chemotherapy is totally washed out of the body. This is the basic concept of bone marrow transplantation in multiple myeloma. And the drug used is melphalan. We use high dose melphalan. And before that, we have to collect bone marrow stem cells. The bone marrow stem cells are generally collected from the blood only. To collect bone marrow stem cells from the blood, what we generally do is that we give GCSF injection to the patient. When we give GCSF injection to the patient, the granulocyte, GCSF is granulocyte colony stimulating factor. We give this injection to the patient, and the patient WBC count goes up. Along with WBC count, the patient's bone marrow stem cell count also goes up. When the bone marrow stem cell count goes up, some of the bone marrow stem cell will may get into the bloodstream, and you have a machine called apheresis machine. There are so many types of apheresis machines are there. You can use any one of those machines, and you can centrifuge the blood. You can separate the bone marrow stem cell from the blood, and you can store it. There are multiple quality checks are involved in this process. You have to, before transplant, you have to get fitness from all the departments, including cardiology, pulmonology, psychiatry, ENT, dental. All this patient will be sent to all this department. This is to evaluate the general health of the patient, evaluate the capacity of the patient to tolerate the high-dose chemotherapy and bone marrow transplant, and also to evaluate for any occult or hiding infection. So when you give high-dose chemotherapy, the patient will be definitely immunocompromised, and if there is any hiding infection anywhere in the body, those infection may get flare up, and patient may die due to severe infection. So in order to avoid all this problem, what we generally do is that we thoroughly work up the patient for any occult infection. We thoroughly work up for general fitness of the patient for bone marrow transplantation. Then only we go for bone marrow transplantation. Then only we post the patient for transplant. And when the patient is posted for transplant and is into the transplant process, what we generally do is that we give them GCSF injection, which I have already, as I have already explained. And after giving these GCSF injection, we collect the stem cells from peripheral blood using an apheresis machine. And after, there are also multiple quality checks are there. One of the major quality check is that we should collect adequate number of bone marrow stem cells for transplant. That is defined as 2 million, at least 2 million stem cells for every kilogram body weight of patient. If that much stem cells are collected, we have sophisticated equipments, machines, and tests to know whether we have achieved that much of stem cell collection. If that is achieved, then only we go ahead with the further transplant procedure. Once we are sure that we have adequate stem cells, then what we generally give is that we give high-dose chemotherapy with the melphalan in the range of that will be around 140 to 200 milligram per meter square. What we generally use is 200 milligram per meter square of melphalan. It's a very, very high dose of chemotherapy. With this high dose chemotherapy, the entire bone marrow will be ablated. The bone marrow will be completely gone, completely destroyed. And when the bone marrow is completely destroyed, the plasma cells are also, the malignant or cancer cells are also residing in the bone marrow. They also will get completely removed. So along with but the problem is that, as I have already told you earlier, along with the cancer stem cells, the cancer cells, your normal stem cell, your normal blood producing stem cells also will get knocked off with the high dose chemotherapy. To salvage the stem cells, or salvage or save the stem cell from this high dose chemotherapy, we are using this autologous stem cell transplant. As I have told you earlier, we have collected adequate number of stem cells. We have stored those stem cells at 4 degrees Celsius in blood bank. After about 24 hours after giving this high dose chemotherapy, this melphalan would have completely drained off from the body, and we'll go back to the blood bank. We'll take this stored stem cells from the blood bank, and then we'll give the stem cell back to the patient. So it's called an auto transplant. Auto means patient's own stem cells are being given back to the patient. So that's why it's called the autologous stem cell transplant, autologous bone marrow transplantation. So generally, it will take a week time for the stem cell to go back to the bone marrow, stick there, and start producing new blood cells. And around 7 to 10 days, normal blood cells will start coming from the bone marrow. The normal, that this includes hemoglobin, platelets, and WBCs. And by around 12th day, patient will be normal. Apart from there will be some vomiting, some abdominal pain, abdominal distension. There will be minimal diarrhea will be there. Other than that, properly selected patients, healthy, properly selected less than 65-year-old myeloma patient should tolerate this bone marrow transplantation well. And most of the patients do go home by 2 weeks time after transplant. This is how we treat transplant eligible patients. Transplantation also carries some side effects. Induction chemotherapy is not going to cause any hair fall, but transplant definitely the hair will be gone. There will be multiple oral ulcers will be there, and you can expect some fever, some infection during transplantation. Generally, there won't be much problem during transplant, but depending upon the patient's risk, what we do is that we calculate an HD, the comorbidity index we calculate. Hematopoietic stem cell transplant comorbidity index is there. We calculate those hematopoietic stem cell comorbidity indexes. Depending upon the score for each patient, the transplant related mortality will be calculated. Generally, it will be around very less. It is less than 3%. Will be the transplant related mortality, especially the comorbidity index is showing a score of 0. So generally, transplant is very well tolerated. There won't be much issues during transplant. And apart from hair fall, some vomiting, some sore mouth, and some diarrhea. Apart from that, there won't be much issues. And after transplant, in about 30 to 45 days, we restart chemotherapy at a very, very, very low dose. That is called maintenance chemotherapy. Usually with the one drug, and nowadays with the 2 drug also. What we generally use nowadays will be either lenalidomide as single agent or lenalidomide plus dexamethasone. In some patients, in majority of patients, and also in those who cannot tolerate lenalidomide, what we generally use is bortezomib maintenance. So the maintenance will be generally given for 2 years. Now the data is coming up for prolonged maintenance, but general consensus is maintenance is for 2 years. This is how we treat myeloma after treatment naive myeloma, transplant eligible myeloma. So in transplant ineligible myeloma, the difference is there won't be any transplant. We'll continue induction chemotherapy for about 18 months. Same chemotherapy, same regimen, a 3-drug regimen. If the patient can tolerate 3 drugs, then ideally 3 drugs. If the patient cannot tolerate 3-drug combination chemotherapy, then it will be obviously 2-drug combination chemotherapy. The duration of chemotherapy will be 18 months. And after completing 18 months of chemotherapy, they will be put on maintenance chemotherapy with lenalidomide for another 2 more years. And they will be kept on follow-up. Those who can afford daratumumab is a very good option. Only problem with daratumumab is cost. If someone can afford daratumumab, they can consider adding daratumumab along with the induction chemotherapy and maintenance chemotherapy. That is going to do fantastic results for patients with the multiple myeloma, especially if they are not high-risk patients. The daratumumab is not going to work in high-risk multiple. You have high-risk myeloma or high-risk cytogenetic features or high LDH. Those patients are called high risk myeloma, especially in those patients who are having high risk molecular features. Daratumumab effect will be very less. Daratumumab is going to work well in loads and intermediate risk myeloma. So this is how we treat an upfront myeloma, transplant eligible or ineligible patients. And even with transplant, most of the patient, the disease may come back. The myeloma usually come back after something. So what transplant does is it delays relapse. The meaning of relapse is disease coming back is called a relapse. So if somebody is put on transplant, is same person, the person is not put on transplant and not given the option of transplant. The remission duration of the remission means that without disease is called a remission. The duration of remission will be somewhat doubled with the transplant. If somebody is having a 2-year remission without transplant, usually they'll have 4 or 5 year remission duration with the same patient. 2 or 4, double, almost double duration will be there with the transplant. 2 without transplant means somewhere around 4 with transplant. So it's almost sure that most of the patients do relapse after first line treatment of multiple myeloma, whether they got bone marrow transplantation or whether they are not getting bone marrow transplantation. And when they relapse, you have multiple options. Of course, the advantage of multiple myeloma patients are that they have plenty of options. Many more molecules are going to come up in the future. In the last 10 years or so, multiple myeloma treatment has seen many revolutions, including addition of newer proteasome features, the development of CD38 antibodies, and many other molecules are also in the pipeline. So when they relapse, what we generally check is what is the remission duration. If somebody is having a remission duration of say more than 6 months and ideally around 1 year, then you can use the same drug which you have used initially. So if the patient went into remission in 2019 and was doing well without any treatment till 2021, and the patient come back with the relapse in March 2021, then definitely we can use the initial chemotherapy regimen that is going to work. If the patient has relapsed in a short duration of time, then the initial chemotherapy drug is not going to work, and then you may have to change the chemotherapy regimen. If somebody is progressing while on chemotherapy, that is a very bad thing. That is a refractory myeloma, and their survival chances are, or their remission duration survival chances will be very less. So depending upon the remission duration, depending upon the patient's comorbidities, depending upon the patient's toxicity profile, we decide what chemotherapy we are going to use in the next slide. And when the patient relapses after attaining a remission, doing a transplant, bone marrow transplant, second time is also a viable option for young, healthy adults. And so whenever you are planning for bone marrow transplant, it's always wise to store stem cells. If you can collect more stem cells when you are doing apheresis for the first time, what you really require is 2 million stem cells for every kilogram of your body weight. But if you can collect, say, 10, 12, 16, or 20 million stem cells for every kilogram body weight, then you can store the extra stem cells in liquid nitrogen, or you can deep throw it at -80 degrees or -120 degrees, and you can store it for many months or many years. If you can store it somewhere between below -190 degrees Celsius. Then if the patient relapses, then what you can do is that you can use this stored stem cells for retransplant. You can repeat transplant two times or 3 times depending upon your stem cell deposit, what you have available with the stem cell bank. So that is a good option. You can go for second transplant, third transplant, or you can, many other drugs are coming up in multiple myeloma. You do not have to worry. So many drugs are there. There will be at least few drugs available for you in the pipeline, available in the market, which will be able to give you a decent, palliation of symptoms and remission duration. So this is how we generally treat a myeloma. This is my thoughts on myeloma. If you have any doubts or any questions, please post in my Facebook page. I'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much.